All right. Thank you, everyone, for hopping on our team Zoom. We aren't going to do any recognition or announcements or anything like that. We're going to jump straight to the good stuff since we have a special guest on tonight. We have the honor of having Neeka Williams. She is a John Maxwell coach speaking tonight on our call. She is an expert in leadership and all things awesome. We got to hang out with her at our leadership retreat a little more than a month ago, and she is just amazing. So I hope you guys have something to take notes with. Pay attention, log out of Facebook, all that good stuff. Give Neeka your full attention and take advantage of this time. And yeah, Neeka, take it away.
Rachel, thank you so much. That's so awesome. Hello, everyone. Like Rachel said, my name is Neeka Williams, and I am a certified coach and trainer speaker with the John Maxwell team. Absolutely delighted to spend a little time with you all this evening. I was, like she said, able to meet some of you all at the retreat in Palm Coast in December. It was wonderful. And now I'm excited to speak to more of you all tonight. Rachel, I just want to thank you again for another opportunity to speak to your team members. I know that you value each and every one of them and desire only the best for them, so I count it an honor to partner with you to offer the opportunities for growth and development that will continue to help your team members grow themselves and their own teams in the areas of leadership and communication. So again, I say thank you so much for having me on the call this evening. I am absolutely delighted and just ready to share with you all as the year is still new, resolutions are fresh, enthusiasm is high. I dare to think that this is one of your busiest times for Beachbody coaches. I was on statisticbrain.com, say that 3 times fast, and I was looking up resolutions, New Year's resolutions, and they had their 2015 stats up. And of the top 10 resolutions that people made in 2015, number 5 was to stay fit and healthy. Number 4 was to enjoy life to the fullest. And of course, number 1 was to lose weight. So I believe this is probably a very busy time, exciting time for you all. And I'm sure that you all are having the opportunity to stay very busy with your businesses this time of year. So thank you for taking a little bit of time out tonight to work on you and your business. And tonight, I'm going to speak about something we all have dealt with in the past, maybe dealing with currently, and of course, you keep on living, you're going to face it in the future. And so you might be asking, well, what in the world is she talking about? And what I want to talk about tonight is the need to make trade-offs. Some people would call it making sacrifices, but whatever you choose to call it, we all have to deal with it on a regular basis. And that is why we're going to talk about it tonight. When it comes to growing and being successful, this is what I know. We have to be willing to give up in order to grow up or to go up. And that always requires us to make trade-offs. So I like to think of trade-offs like a traffic circle that you might approach in your car. You enter the traffic circle and there are a few options with regard to the direction you can take once you're in the traffic circle. You can take the first right or the second right or the third right. And as explained by John Maxwell in his book, 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, he says life has many intersections or opportunities to go up or down. And at these intersections, we have to make choices. And when we make choices, we can either add something to our life, subtract something from it, or exchange something we have for something we do not. And the most successful people know when to do which one of these 3. And he goes on to explain that everyone makes trades throughout life, whether they know it or not. So, okay, there's no argument here. We know that, no doubt. We all make trades. But here's the issue. Are we going to make good ones or bad ones? And I submit to you that sometimes you do not know until after the trade is made whether it was a good trade or a bad trade. For example, I'm going to use myself in a lot of these examples because I'm who I know best. When my oldest daughter, who is now 13, was less than a year old, my husband and we decided that it would be best if I stayed at home with her. And we made that decision based on very analytical approach to the situation. You see, we had moved to Maryland and determined that childcare for an infant at that time would cost us about $1,500 per month. $1,500 per month for one child in childcare. And if I were to work outside of the home, after we paid for childcare, we would have basically had just enough money left from my check to purchase gas for me to go back and forth to work and pantyhose for me to wear to work. So that didn't seem like a smart decision to make. So I stayed home. And mind you, at the time, I did not want to be home, but I felt it was the right thing to do at the time. We had spent a good bit of money on my master's degree. I had always worked outside of the home, and I had found what I did very enjoyable. I knew how to do it. I knew how to do what I was doing outside of the home. However, when it came to me staying home, I felt completely inadequate and unskilled at this thing called staying at home mommying. I vividly remember one day my 11-month-old child looked at me as if to say, "Mommy, you just do not know what you are doing." And she couldn't articulate it, but her face, oh my goodness, I could just read her face. And I looked at her and I said, "Baby, you're absolutely right." At that moment, I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I had made a bad trade. However, after reading a lot of books, asking a lot of questions of those people around me who I thought I considered great mommies and a whole lot of prayer, I was able to get a handle on the stay-at-home mom thing. And I finally began to rest in the fact that I was well qualified to be the best mommy to our kids. Now, if you fast forward more than a decade now, I know I made the best trade. But over 10 years ago, you could not have convinced me of it. The immediate pain, the uncertainty, the confusion that I felt was real, and it did not feel good. You could not have convinced me that all of it would eventually subside, and I would look back to realize it was, in fact, a good trade. So here's what I'd like for you to see, is that trade-offs should be viewed as opportunities for growth. And not only growth for you, but also for the people in your lives, like your family members, your clients, your team members, your friends, etc. You have to remember when you look at a crossroads and you react to it in fear instead of looking at the possible merits, you automatically close yourself off from the potential opportunity it provides. And that's exactly what I did initially when I stayed home with my daughter. I was afraid of not knowing what to do. But once I realized, I really shouldn't be afraid. I'm going to figure it out. We're going to get some things. I'm going to get some help, and we're going to figure this thing out. So once I realized that I shouldn't be afraid, I saw the situation for what it really was. It was an opportunity. So how you react to the crossroads in your life and your ultimate decision of what and when to make a trade will determine your success or not. And ultimately, your success is on you. You can be thankful for any and all of the support that you have and thank God for it, but your success is determined by your choice. And here's a great quote that author Dennis Waitley, I believe, Waitley says. He says, "A sign of wisdom and maturity is when you come to terms with the realization that your decisions cause your rewards and consequences. You are responsible for your life, and your ultimate success depends on the choices you make." Now, that can be empowering and frightening all at the same time, because good trade-offs make for successes, but bad ones not so much, right? So here's where you have to make a decision. Are you going to be more motivated by the opportunity to succeed or the fear of failure? So we're talking about trade-offs. You must give up to grow up or to go up, and that requires change. And we have to realize that any changes we have in our lives always begin with the changes that we're willing to make personally. See, change is personal, change is possible, and it's also profitable. Change is personal because in order to change your life, you have to change. But it's also possible because, you know, everyone can change, right? It excludes no one. And it is profitable because you'll be rewarded when you change. But please don't think that the rewards are immediate. In fact, like I mentioned earlier in my stay-at-home mom example, the pain of the trade-offs we make are most often felt well before any gains or rewards that we feel. And in these periods of what I'll call transition, this time of feeling the pain and hoping for the gain, we are challenged for real. I mean, think about your situation. You may have given up what some people would call a secure job to strike out on your adventure of entrepreneurship, or maybe you did not feel like you were skilled enough or educated enough or salesperson-like enough to do well. It may have been scary and exciting all at the same time. But you reasoned that if you put in the work, you would be successful. Now, perhaps you've put in some work and seen some success, but maybe not like you had envisioned. Maybe you're still working, but you are in that season of transition that we're talking about. What are you going to do? If you felt you were right in the change you made in order to start operating your own business, let me encourage you to not give up. Instead, you have to keep pressing and trust that you'll receive that gain that you anticipate. You have to use the resources around you. You can use your team leader, your other teammates. You can lean on them for advice. You can get strategies from them while you keep moving through this transition toward the prize you anticipate. But notice what I did not say. I did not say to just sit around and wait for the transition period to pass. That's not going to work. The success we seek from the trade-offs that we've made is going to require consistent and persistent work on our part. If we realize that we've made a mistake somewhere, it usually means that we just need to make another change to get back on track. So I encourage you not to be paralyzed by the fear of making a bad trade-off. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, if you can't fly run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But by all means, keep moving. So what I'm doing now is just encouraging you this evening to keep moving when you're in that transition space. Just keep changing. Keep being open to making those trade-offs that are necessary for you to move forward in and to be successful at what you have been created to do. Well, maybe you might be on this call and you're doing all of that and seeing some really, really nice success in your business. That's awesome. That's wonderful. That's great. But let me ask you a few questions. Have you put your business or your success on cruise control? Have you figured out what works for you? Do you believe you've got the magic formula for success? Henry Kissinger said, each success only buys an admission ticket to a more difficult problem. Sometimes success will lull you into coasting. However, it's important to realize that the skills that got you here, where you are today, no matter how good today is, those skills that got you here are probably not the skills that will get you there. And when I say there, I'm meaning wherever it is you see yourself in the future. So in order to go higher, more trade-offs will be required. But here's a warning, so you can't say no one ever told you. The higher you climb, the tougher the trade-offs will be. They're not going to become easier. They're going to become tougher. So when you're making those trade-offs, you must know they never leave you the same. You change. Every time you make a trade-off, it's going to change you in some way. But in making trade-offs, you have to realize that some of them are never worth the price. Now, we all have some non-negotiables in our life, or we should. For me, the non-negotiables are my faith, my marriage, and my family. There is nothing worth me trading for those things, period. For you, your non-negotiables may be different. But what I encourage you to do is draw the boundary lines now that keep you from accidentally trading off something that's actually very valuable to you and that would cause you to have regret in the future. So while you're making that list of things that are non-negotiable, make sure you make a list of the trade-offs that are worth making. So you have your non-negotiables. These we won't touch for anything. These things are not on the table at any point. But the important list, the next list that you make is which trade-offs are worth making. So I went to get some examples of these types of trade-offs that are worth making. So I looked, John Maxwell actually gave us about 5 examples of trade-offs worth making, and I'll give them to you. Number 1, he says, I'm willing to give up financial security today for potential tomorrow. So in other words, I value opportunity over security. Number 2 is, I am willing to give up immediate gratification for personal growth. Now here's a truism. Instant gratification and personal growth are completely incompatible. They're like oil and water, they just don't mix. Number 3, I'm willing to give up the fast life for the good life. Authors Leader and Shapiro define the good life as living in the place you belong, with the people you love, doing the right work on purpose. And in living this good life, in doing this, we have to remember balance and growth, and make sure that we live, as Albert Schweitzer says, he says, as a man or a woman who never gets used up. We have to learn how to delegate responsibilities, partner in such a way that our strengths are used. So I'm willing to give up the fast life for the good life. And number 4 is I'm willing to give up security for significance. Now, I mentioned that I have children. They enjoy watching animated movies, so that means I get to watch a lot of animated movies also. And several months ago, we were watching The Lion King. Many of you are familiar with The Lion King. We were watching it again. I don't know how many times I've seen it, many times. It's okay, because it's a good movie. I enjoy it every time I watch it. But this time, it was a little different this time when I watched this movie, because I was watching The Lion King and had what I would call an epiphany of sorts. And so here's the scene that I'm watching with my children, and it's when Simba had spent many years with Timon and Pumbaa, and he was out there, living the life with the mantra, Hakuna Matata. It means no worries for the rest of your days. Okay, singer I'm not, but that's one of my favorite songs. But Simba was out there, and he was very comfortable living this Hakuna Matata lifestyle. It was easy. He knew how to do it well. It didn't really require any special skills or talents, and it allowed Simba really to be accountable to no one but himself. And Simba runs into one of his old classmates one day who clues him into the awful living situation that is there since Simba's dad, Mufasa, died, and his uncle Scar took over the leadership of the pride. And so Nala, this old friend, implores Simba to return and take his rightful place as leader and help the pride become great again. However, Simba's guilt and shame would not allow him to even consider the idea. He did not want to make the trade-off of easy and secure to significance. He was running away from his destiny of assuming leadership of his pride. He was ashamed of his past. He was scared. He was scared of his future. And in all the confusion of whether to stay or to go, he had a vision of Mufasa speaking to him. And Mufasa says, in the Mufasa voice, he says, "Simba, you are more than you have become." In other words, Mufasa was trying to help Simba understand that there was greatness on the inside of him. But Simba had to do some things. He had to make some trade-offs, if you will, to get that greatness to come forth. He had to be willing to give up security for significance. Number 5, the 5th thing that is a trade-off that is John Maxwell was willing to make is, I'm willing to give up addition for multiplication. For me personally, I want to do something that is way bigger than me. So I will be more than I have become, and I will be able to help others do the same. Now, this is a topic that we talked about, that we covered in December when we were talking about developing the leaders around you. We talked about if you lead followers, you work via addition. But if you lead leaders, you multiply. And when you multiply, you move from success to significance. Now, the trade-offs that you come up with that are worth making, they may be similar to or completely different from the 5 examples that I've just read. But what's important is really for each of us to write down are trade-offs that are worth making. Because when properly articulated, these trade-offs that are worth making, they guide us as we move forward. Arthur James Allen said, "He who would accomplish little must sacrifice a little. He who would achieve much must sacrifice much." What are you willing to sacrifice? What trade-offs are you willing to make in order to pursue your greatness and to help others reach theirs? You willing to push? You willing to press? Are you willing to go forward in expectation of great opportunities and not great failures? I submit to you that you are more than you have become, so go be more. I heard a quote that says, "The hardest part about stealing second base is taking your foot off of first base." So I ask you, what trade-offs do you need to make today? What's your next level? What will it cost you to get there? I really want to take the time to thank you all for just allowing me to speak to you this evening. And Rachel, I'll ask you, is there anything else that you'd like to add or ask before I have to jump off the line and allow you all to move forward with the rest of your meeting?
That was great. That was awesome. I took some great notes. We have about 2 minutes left. If anyone has a question for Neeka, you can feel free to unmute yourself. Don't be shy, y'all. Going once, going twice. All right, well, they're being shy.
That's okay. It's a lot to think about sometimes.
It is. I hope you guys are thinking about your trade-offs, and feel free to post on our team page what your biggest takeaway was from this call and what trade-offs you'll make to take yourself to the next level. So thank you, Neeka, so much. That was awesome. We really appreciate your time and hanging out with us and sharing some of your wisdom. We have a lot to think about now. And we have our backstage pass into coaching event that starts at 9. So if you guys can be in there and post and comment, that would be great. So thank you everyone for getting on our team Zoom. Thank you again, Neeka. You're amazing. We appreciate you so much, and have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.